So I was thinking about something the other day. Thinking about horror films and boutique labels, and that especially like I don't know if it's the same in America, but in the UK, um, like boutique labels started with horror films. Most were either Italian kind of exploitation films, giallos, those kind of like the Italian zombie movies. Those were the films that were getting released. I mean, that's what Arrow started with. Arrow started with releasing like a lot of those 1970s, 1980s kind of super low budget Italian exploitation horror movies. And I was just thinking, I was like, we're all collectors. We all collect movies. We collect boutique labels. But these labels wouldn't exist without horror films. And it's no surprise that when you watch like videos on YouTube, or if you're in specific like collector groups on like Facebook or Instagram or WhatsApp or stuff like that, you'll find that the majority of collectors started off collecting horror movies. Now, I can tell you. Now, I've been a big horror movie fan for a long time. I went through stages of watching the like super disgusting, gross out like Euro horror and like some of the most fucked up shit that you could think of. But I got to the point where I was just like, well, I'm not really enjoying them. I'm watching them for the controversy that they're causing. Specifically films like a Serbian film or Human Centipede 2. A Serbian film, I think it's a well-made movie. I just haven't got time for it now. Human Centipede 2 is a piece of crap. Human Centipede 1 is a piece of crap. Human Centipede 3 is a piece of crap. I've never watched like the August Underground movies because I have literally no interest in fake snuff movies. But I was a big fan. Like the first horror film I ever saw, and I don't even think it's classed as a horror movie these days. I think it's more just it's just a vampire movie. The first horror film that I saw was The Lost Boys, and I watched that on VHS in the mid-90s, and I really liked it. And then I watched Army of Darkness. I watched the third Evil Dead movie before I watched the second or the first. And it's one of my favourite horror films. It's not even really a horror film when you really think about Army of Darkness. It's essentially Jason and the Argonauts, but with a bit more gore and Bruce Campbell. But going back to the whole collectors started off collecting movies, or collecting Blu-rays thing, starting with horror, is that I was exactly the same. When it came to collecting Arrow movies, Arrow releases, or Arrow video releases, it was horror. It was horror. Same with Shameless releasing. I've had what did I have? About 5 or 6 Scream Factory releases in the past. I had Body Bags, which I sold. What else was there? They Live. I know They Live's not technically a horror movie. It's more of a sci-fi action film. I had The Fog. John Carpenter's The Fog, which I've yet to replace because I got rid of the Scream Factory release of that. I did have the Mad Max release. I know that's not horror, but it was a part of the few Scream Factory films that I owned. But I was thinking, like, why is it we all start with horror movies? Why do we all start with collecting physical media, specifically like not bootleg. I keep saying bootleg. Maybe it's because it sounds like boutique. I started collecting boutique movies when Arrow, right at the very start of Arrow video. They started with DVDs and stuff, and I think one of the first Blu-rays that they released was George Romero's Day of the Dead. Awesome film, great film. This was like an instant buy for me. There was no way I was not going to buy this on Blu-ray. It had never been released on Blu-ray in the UK before. It had only ever had a really shitty DVD. The first time I ever saw Day of the Dead was I recorded it off television one Halloween and watched it. It took me a few years to really, really love this film, but now I love it. It's Day of the Dead. It's really good. It's not like Dawn of the Dead, where the first time I watched it, I was like, mind blown. This film is fucking amazing. No, I mean, Day of the Dead's a bit of a slog to get through when you first watch it, because it is quite deep when you think about it. I mean, Romero was really good as a writer, writing his horror films, but basing the themes around certain things that we do every day, such as Dawn of the Dead is about consumerism. Night of the Living Dead. You could dig into Night of the Living Dead to find out what the underlying themes of that film are. Some people will say it's looking at racism in the late 60s and stuff, but from the interviews that George Romero has given about that film, is that Dwayne Jones was only cast because he did the best audition, I guess. But Day of the Dead is more a film. I say more a film. Day of the Dead is a zombie film. It's an awesome zombie film. It has incredible zombie makeup, but it's about science versus military. The scientists are trying to find a cure for the zombie outbreak, and they're in an underground sort of bunker area type of place, which is run by the military. And the military run it as a sort of military regime, telling the scientists what to do and stuff like that. And it gets quite deep into it. Not like, I'm not saying it goes full on hardcore deep, but Day of the Dead is a great movie. I mean, if you've not seen it, do yourself a favour, watch it. I picked Day of the Dead because it was the first Arrow Blu-ray that I bought. I owned some of the DVDs beforehand. I owned some of the like the Argento films. Like Inferno I owned, and I wasn't fussed on Inferno. To be honest, I'm not a huge Argento fan, which is weird because I'm going to speak about an Argento film now in a minute. I'm not a huge Argento fan. Suspiria is good. It's very well made. And that's about as far as I got, really, with absolutely loving the output of Dario Argento. But another one that is kind of sort of... I think I've spoken about this previously in another video about Italian rip-offs and sort of the Italian kind of exploitation genre. Like I said, I talked about Day of the Dead. I have waxed lyrical about my love for Dawn of the Dead. And this is another film that took me years and years and years and years to actually appreciate. And it's Lucio Fulci's Zombie Flesh Eaters. Or Zombie, or Zombie 1, or Zombie 2, whatever it's called these days, I can't remember. But Zombie Flesh Eaters was the UK title, I think, when it was released by Vipco, or whoever released it in the early 80s. This was banned for a while, I think. This is the, apparently it's the strong uncut version with the eye, and this also has a woman having a fight with a shark. Well, a zombie having a fight with a shark, should I say. But, yeah, I mean, this... I'd only ever seen this on a really, really, really poor 4:3 aspect ratio Vipco DVD, and I hated it. I think it was because the picture quality was absolutely terrible. So when it was announced, and this was a film that a lot of people were crying out for on Blu-ray at the time. When this was announced, I was like, I didn't really like it, but should I give it another try? The picture quality is going to be better, so why not? I'll give it a shot. And yeah, it's true. The picture quality is a lot better. And I did enjoy the film more. I think it was also because by that time I'd seen Survivors season 1 or series 1, 2, and 3, and I had familiarised myself with Ian McCulloch, the main star of that, who is also the main star of this, and Contamination, which is a poor movie, an awful movie. So I think the fact that I knew the actor who was in this made me enjoy it a lot more. And also, like I said, the the picture quality greatly enhances the viewing experience. When you can see the picture more clearly, you can more engage with the events that are happening on screen, which is why I think this was just as a brand new high definition restoration, but that's why I picked it up, and that's kind of like the power of Blu-ray. I'm not talking about 4Ks, I'm talking about Blu-ray just in general, high definition in general. It allows you to see those films that you may have seen on shoddy VHS rips or terrible DVD transfers. You can appreciate the film more because you will enjoy it more because you can see what's going on. That's the power of Blu-ray. But again, this is an Arrow release. Another Arrow release, and I said I was going to talk about an Argento film, is Argento's Bird with the Crystal Plumage. Now, to me, this is more sort of like proto-giallo kind of movie. It's more just like a thriller. It's not technically a horror film. It does have some gore, but it hasn't got a huge amount of gore in it. It's more of a detective investigation movie, and I think this was Argento's film debut as a filmmaker, as a director and a writer. I know he'd previously written other movies. He'd co-written Once Upon a Time in the West, and I think he'd worked with Mario Bava on quite a lot of stuff. But this was his first directorial effort. And personally, with not including Suspiria, because we all know Suspiria is a masterpiece of Italian horror. Not including that, I'd say Bird with the Crystal Plumage is probably his best film. It's my favourite, but I am not a Dario Argento connoisseur. Well, expert. I can't claim to know everything about him. I think I own maybe one. Is there any more? I think it's just the one. I own the one Dario Argento movie, which is no, two, because I own Suspiria on DVD. I haven't picked it up on Blu-ray yet. But yeah, so that's like, but without like a boutique release like this, I might never have been able to see this, because I can't remember. Because like, this is the thing. This is the really good thing about blind buys, and I know I've talked about blind buying a little bit in the past videos, and I've talked about wasting your money on films that you don't know about. But like, this is the thing. This is what I do before I buy a movie, and I will show you. Where is it? I can't find it now. So what I tend to do, if I am talking to someone and they recommend a film that I'm not really 100% sure on, I will look it up. So I will either look in a film guidebook, a really good one that I use for years and years and years and years. In fact, I may actually know where it is. Is this Leonard Maltin's 2015 movie guide. This is a thick boy. This, as you can see, has been used. Now this book gives you the cast and then like a little rundown of the plot of each movies. It is, how many pages? It is 1,611 pages long. This is my Bible. If I'm looking up a movie, or if I need to just quickly look up a film, I can go into this one. I can go blah, 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 blah. Bird with a Crystal Plumage. Let's have a look. B.I. Bird cage, bird of prey, bird with a crystal plumage. There we go. It's got 2.5 stars. Bear in mind, he only goes up to 4 stars, so 2.5 is about midpoint. American writer living in Rome witnesses attempted murder in gallery. He and his mistress become involved in the case. Uneven. Best viewed on large screen. Reissued as The Phantom of Terror. Chromoscope. PG. It's not PG. It's a 15 or something like that. But that is what I think. So I'll get the log line from this. Then I'll use IMDb. I'll check out the information on there. I'll look at some of the like trivia things. I'll look at the writers. I'll look at the director, the cast, all that stuff. I'll check even the specs. I'll have a look at the filming locations. I'll look what camera it was used and stuff. And then I'll go to YouTube and I'll watch the trailer. And if the trailer drags me in, I'll be like, you know what? I'm going to give it a punt. So I did. I checked out Bird with Crystal Plumage and I enjoyed it. I liked it. That's why it stayed in my collection. Now, I'm not going to say, like, it worked for every single film. I mean, there's films that I've looked at and I've researched and then I've blind bought after watching the trailer, and I've been like, you know what? That trailer lied. That film was not good. But in the case of like something like Bird with a Crystal Plumage, I really enjoyed it. So it stayed. And that was because Arrow Video released it in a high definition transfer. Let me pop that one back on this shelf. Again, another one. Another Lucio Fulci film. The Beyond. Again, this was another film that I saw for the first time on a really, really bad Vipco DVD. And unlike Zombie Flesh Eaters, I actually quite enjoyed this the first time I watched it. The DVD transfer wasn't horrendously bad. It was okay. I don't know if it was in its... I can't remember if it was in its original aspect ratio. But I was like, you know what? If that ever comes out on high definition, I'll pick it up. So that's what I did. Arrow Video released The Beyond. I know there was some issues production-wise with this film when it came out. There was a disc replacement thing, but I was just like, I don't love it that much to have a sepia thing changed to a black and white thing. I don't really give a shit that much about it. But I like the film, so don't really care if it's black or white or if the flashback is sepia toned. But again, like really old Vipco DVD, probably completely cut, so I'd never seen the full film. So something like Arrow Video releasing this was a godsend. The other one, a film which I did love and I did own previously on DVD, and the picture quality was absolutely shockingly bad, was Demons. Written by and produced by Dario Argento. Directed by Lamberto Bava. With one of the coolest 80s soundtracks of all time, which also features Go West. This was a cool movie. This was really cool. It reminded me of Dawn of the Dead. It reminded me of Day of the Dead. It had that sort of, like, weird sort of John Carpenter feel to it, even though... Best way to describe Demons for like what type of film you want to compare it to is Dawn of the Dead by way of John Carpenter by way of Dario Argento. So the lighting is Dario Argento. The feel of it is John Carpenter, and the sort of idea of the film is very George Romero, especially the ending. So I absolutely adored Demons when I first saw it. So it's a no-brainer that I'm going to pick up this copy. I did have Demons 2, which I lent to someone, and I never got it back, and I haven't seen them in about 3 years, so I'm stuck with the first one. Wasn't overly fussed on the second one anyway, but Demons 1 was awesome. It was awesome. Great soundtrack, great directing, great special effects makeup. The cinematography is fantastic, and the Blu-ray looks great. So, again, something like Arrow Video. I have specifically chosen Arrow Video because these are the earliest ones that they released. Something like Arrow Video, it was a godsend to people who liked horror but had only ever seen really bad quality versions of them. Again, so then Arrow starts to take off. People start buying more Arrow releases, which means Arrow can then afford to get more have more selection with the films that they're able to license, which then paves way for other boutique labels. So someone like Film 101 or 101 Films released like Stuart Gordon's Dolls. It's not a very good film, but like it's available because a small company was able to license the film and probably the original negative, do a HD scan of it, do a little bit of an upscale, I guess, maybe not upscale, and release it. I mean, I think this was $9.99 when it came out, $9.99 or $14.99 if you were in HMV. That's a really good price. It's a really good price. And I just love how, like, a company like 101, which started off with the cult horror collection, well, they actually started off releasing quite crappy little, very low budget modern horror films that were made for like £25,000 and stuff that somehow managed to get, well, they managed to buy, print to a DVD and then shove out. But they've just gone, again, like Arrow, they've gone from strength to strength. I mean, another one they released was Lord of Illusions. Great Clive Barker movie. This has 2 discs. I mean, there is a bummer side to this, which is that it does have the director's cut, but the director's cut isn't in high definition. It's only on DVD, which they should have basically rectified. They should have done a HD scan of the director's cut, because I know a lot more people wanted to watch the director's cut than the theatrical cut. But again, something like Lord of Illusions, this is again a license from MGM. But then you see a company like 101 Films, they're releasing these films, these lower end horror movies, and then you get something like Cherry Falls, one of the most underrated slasher films of all time. Great performance by Brittany Murphy, Michael Bihn's in it, Gabriel Mann and Jay Moore. It's great. Awesome film. So to have this in high definition, yeah, I know there's not really any special features. There's a documentary on there. So actually, there's a documentary, some cast and production interviews, and a director's commentary. But then this is pretty cool. Having this on Blu-ray in high definition, considering you could only get like a DVD version of it, well, and a VHS copy if you were able to find the VHS. But having something like this in high definition is great. Again, so then they start moving on again. Something like Nightmares. What else is there? Yeah, so they've got their, I mean, I'm just going through the ones that I have, because obviously being label people, I don't want to buy every single film on the label because some of them don't interest me. More the B-movie kind of slasher films. But they've still got the red label, but I think they focus more now on the sort of black label. So like, these are really, really good releases as well. So they've managed to move up the line when it comes to releases. So starting off with something like Solar Babies or Solar Warriors in the UK. In America it's called Solar Babies. Solar Warriors is a bad name. Fucking love that film. Something like that to Stuart Gordon's Dolls, to Lord of Illusions. Then on to things like Existenz and Screamers. And now they've gone from these to releasing things like what's the next big thing they've done? They've just released Memento. Christopher Nolan's Memento. They've released that in a really, really good looking box set. I mean, I don't really care about the packaging, as we know, I said in the last video. So it's interesting to see these labels that started off at horror moving on to like higher things. I mean, this I think is number 5 from 101 Films' is Black Label. It's Trespass. It's not a horror film. It's a Walter Hill action movie. So then, like Johnny Mnemonic. Again, it's not a horror film. It's a sci-fi movie. It's not a good film. The Matrix is better. So you see where these companies like started, and like they all seem to start with horror films, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 of these labels. I think like Eureka started doing like classic 19 40s and 50s classics that they were releasing, especially on the Masters of Horror label. But then a film that you wouldn't expect them to release, which I was fully expecting this to be released by someone like Arrow or 101, is Night of the Creeps. On this like dual format collector's edition. I mean, there's loads of special features on it. It's got a really nice cover, a really nice slipcase. And it's got the original artwork on the inside. Now, I would not expect Eureka, of all people, who are more primarily known for releasing classics and film noir and stuff like that. So, like, I would never ever put Night of the Creeps next to A Touch of Evil. I know it's still Eureka, but I know it's Masters of Cinema, and I know this is not Masters of Cinema, but it's still Eureka. So it's the same label. So yeah, this is just what I was thinking about, the fact that all these huge label, boutique labels that are now releasing these big Hollywood movies. Like, we all know Arrow's releasing stuff like Robin Hood, Waterworld, RoboCop, The Thing, stuff like that. So all these big kind of well-known movies, they all started releasing crappy, sort of culty exploitation and horror movies and putting more and more care into it, so people were buying these and elevating the company to a point where they were able to release stuff like Waterworld and like Old Boy. Like, when Arrow started, I'd never in a million years expect them to release Old Boy, because they were the Italian guys. They were the ones putting out Italian horror movies and zombie films from the 80s. So something like Old Boy, which is probably one of the best films of the last 30 years, going on to Blu-ray is like amazing. And collectors are the ones that were able to allow this to happen, because we bought all those B-movie films. Like, the same company that released Red Scorpion starring Dolph Lundgren, which, let's face it, Red Scorpion's crap. It's a canon movie, for crying out loud. It's crap, but again, it's like most B action movies, it's super enjoyable. So the company that put out Red Scorpion went on to put things like, I'm trying to find a great example. There we go. Red Scorpion put out Zardos, or Videodrome. And then they went really obscure with things like In the Aftermath, which, like, In the Aftermath is almost universally unknown. And this is a brand new 2K restoration. This film is a mixture of two films. It's one film that was shot, and then the animated scenes are from a film called Angel's Egg. Like, I saw this on a black and white television when I was about 6, and for some reason it's stuck in my head. I don't know why. And then I found out that Arrow were releasing In the Aftermath. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. No one knows about that film. But it's here, In the Aftermath. And another one they went really obscure with, DEFCON 4. So, like, these B movies that Arrow are releasing, or were releasing, led way to things like Robin Hood, Waterworld, RoboCop, and the stuff that this is coming out now. So they've got like Conan the Barbarian coming out in America, The Warriors coming out in America. The UK is only getting remakes, or not remakes, repackages or upgrades of previous titles, because licensing in the UK sucks. Massively sucks, and not everyone is 4K. So I really wanted to get Mallrats on Blu-ray. I don't have a 4K player, and the Blu-ray that would be with it would be Region A, and I no longer have a Region A player. So I had to pick up the UK release. and I've just lost it. I had to pick up the UK release. No, nothing wrong with this release, but I really want it. I really wanted the Arrow release. And one film that I love more than life itself, and one that I think I've mentioned, and which one that I watched literally a couple of weeks ago, that did get a release by Arrow in the States, was The Last Starfighter. Now, I love this film so much. But licensing stops this from getting released in the UK. So, this has never had a Blu-ray release in the UK. Never. This is a Universal movie. I do not know who owns the rights in the UK. But there was a nice, gorgeous looking 4K DVD, no, 4K Blu-ray, 4K and Blu-ray release of this by Arrow in the States that I cannot get hold of because I can't play it. I'm not wasting money on something that I can't play. But my point is that these boutique labels that are now huge and have all these people talking about latest release, all these companies were made on low budget exploitation releases, horror movies. I don't know. I just think the title for this video was going to be Horror and the Boutique Boom, because the boutique labels started the most maligned and disregarded genre of cinema, which would be horror. So that's all I wanted to say. I mean, again, this video has been long. I'm wearing my Mighty Ducks jersey. Something I was thinking about, which was how all these labels did start with horror movies, and that if it wasn't for the cultists, the cult film fans and the people who like love horror films and stuff like that, like, they wouldn't be where they are today, and you wouldn't have all these releases and stuff. I mean, this is more specifically for UK people, but yeah, it's just something I was thinking about, and I thought it was something that I could put out and that people would sort of enjoy or agree. If you don't agree, then leave a comment, have a like, thumbs up, subscribe, do what you normally do on YouTube. Peace out. Till next time. Cheers.